Hey guys, what's up? Lightboltjoe here. Today we are going to discuss The First Purge, which is technically the fourth movie in the series, but it's called The First Purge. So you know like how the Saw movies are like, there's 8 of them, but like they intertwine, right? And like, okay, alright, okay. So, plot-wise we have Purge, The Purge, Purge Anarchy, Purge Election Year, and The First Purge. Okay? So, The First Purge is the first movie, as in the fourth movie is the first movie. Then we have a TV series coming out in September, actually, on USA, which is a 10-episode event, which is 10 years after The First Purge. Then after that, it's like, I don't know, 10-ish, 15-ish years after the TV show, when the first movie comes out, which is called The Purge. Then there's 9 years between The First Purge and Purge Anarchy, and then there's 1 year between Purge Anarchy and Purge Election Year. Okay? Did you follow that? It took me forever to figure it out, but that's the timeline. Okay, so the fourth movie, the brand new Purge movie, The First Purge, takes place on Staten Island. Marissa Tomei is this psychologist who comes up with this experiment that the new founding fathers, which is the new America, agree upon to see if the experiment works, so that way the purge, goes mainstream across the entire country. Obviously it works because that's what the other 3 films are about, but how does it work? How does the government get involved? Does the experiment go as planned? Does the government take over and kill poor people as they do anyway? What happens, right? Basic plot points, we get that from the trailer. This was the most horrifying movie that I have ever seen, because of how realistic it actually was. You open the movie with all of these videos of these riots and these protests, and you're like, oh my god, this is creepy. And then you're like, wait a minute. And then you're like, holy bleepity bleeping bleep. They used actual footage, actual videos from protests and riots that have been happening since the Trump administration took office in 2016. I saw so many Charlottesville protests. I saw so many resistant protests and riots. I saw pride marches. They had different events. There was something in Ohio that happened. I remember seeing that video. There's something, the Florida thing. After what was it? Was the Pulse nightclub in 2016? Was that a 2016 thing? I feel that was a 2016 thing. So many protests and riots of actual footage were used for this film, and they just blurred everyone's faces out. And it's creepy as freak because it's the reality we live in. Right now, you're hearing pop, 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 pop. My windows are open. It's July 3rd, as I'm currently recording this, right? 4th of July is tomorrow, Independence Day. So you're hearing all this pop, pop, pops, right? But like, there are places in this country that's normal, that the pop-pops keep happening, that the gun violence is absurd, that you have these March for Our Lives kids marching across the country trying to come up with a way to regulate guns, to stop unnecessary gun violence, to put back mental health checks into owning a weapon, because for some reason the current administration decided to abolish what the last administration did. I get heated about a lot of things, especially on stupidity, but this movie was beautiful because it was unbiased. It didn't favor conservatives, it didn't favor liberals, it didn't favor the administration, the current administration we currently have, it didn't favor the resistance. You had equal stories coming together. It was an accurate portrayal of the government trying to eradicate poor people, because that's what's happening. And they're showing it. And they're showing that the government gets involved for certain monetary gain. That's the whole purpose of these purge movies, is that people need to purge and purify, right? Release. It's an amazing concept because, as we've learned through the last 3 movies, that the crime rate has declined exponentially. And this one political guy in this particular film gave Marissa Tomei a speech that the country can't afford to pay for these people anymore. The country can't afford these poor people anymore. And he was talking about how like taxes would have to triple in order to keep providing for these people and whatever. And you're watching, you're like, the nerve of this character. And then you're like, holy crap, this is what the current fight is about. How are people in this country supposed to live on a barely a minimum wage kind of a thing? Not everyone can afford to go to a school, to get a degree, to learn things. You know, people will go to school and waste hundreds of thousands of dollars for a piece of paper to do absolutely nothing with it because there's no jobs of that particular nature. It's a weird society we live in, and that's what really creeped me the freak out with watching this film, because it was so unbiased and also a smack in the face to the current political structure that we have at the same time. How do you craft a film that has so much unbiased yet so much bias at the same time? There were certain nods to the current administration of what's been going on, what has happened, things that they've eradicated, that they've completely abolished for no reason, and then things that they say that they're going to do but they're not doing, but then things that they are trying to do but they can't do because other people are trying to vote against it, and it's just... It's an episode of the Twilight Zone. That's literally the political climate of this country right now. And this movie showed it. It showed that both sides, does not matter your political party. It showed that both spectrums of the political climate are not cooperating with each other. And that's what The Purge was doing. The Purge was a release. The Purge is a release that gives people this outlet that does help the government thin the herd because of overpopulation, right? But it also gives everyone else a means of retaliation. That they've been put down for so long that they've had enough. It's literal resistance versus administration in this film in an unbiased manner. And I never thought I would see that. I never thought that I would see this. And it's horrifying because this is the world that we currently live in. As Americans, this is what is going on. This is why the rest of the world is laughing at us. Because they're seeing the reality show that is our current political climate, and they're like, oh my God, what happened to America? It was so great. What happened to it? Right? And then things just have been crumbling for many decades. And things are turning around. I see it. I get it. I hate talking politics, but that's what these movies are about. This is a political movement. These movies are political movies. Does not matter what political party you associate with. I could give a rat's ass. That is the nihilistic way of looking at it. Let's pull a Rick Sanchez. Let me hold my blaster while I say this. While I purge and purify. Does not matter where you've come from, does not matter where you're going. What matters is that you are here right now in this moment, in this disgusting, muddy climate that we live in, right? What do? Do you purge and purify? Do you keep complaining? Do you protest this? Do you protest that? Or do you actually do something? Do you get up and do something? Yes, obviously protesting is doing something, I get that, but like, what else can we do? What else can we do? Can we elect a certain leader to do a certain thing that they say they're going to do and then they'll actually do it? Or do we push people out of certain political aspects because they're not doing what they said they're doing? They're only making things worse. Then what's the definition of worse? This movie makes you think, because this is the world we live in. How the hell do they use actual video of horrific events that have taken place over the last 2 years in various protests and riots? They just blurred the faces out. It's supposed to be a fictitious movie, but it's not. This is the most non-fiction film in a fiction aspect that I've seen. On a technicality, the only technical note problem that I had with this film, in continuation with the series, has nothing to do with the politics of it. They brought drones into this film. They brought drones that shoot people in this film. I have nothing against that because that is where our world is going to. You're going to have government controlled drones keeping the peace, quote unquote. Probably not necessarily having guns, but more like how in Upgrade, Leigh Whannell's Upgrade, how they had drones like recording everything. So it's more like a Big Brother program, right? So if like there's like a fight in the middle of a street, the drone will see it from an aerial view, kind of a thing. But in Purge 1, in Purge Anarchy, and Purge Election Year, which are all in the future from this current film, they don't show drones doing that. So they show drones in the first Purge, which was the experimental Purge, which is technically the fourth movie, but they don't show drones in movie 1, 2, and 3, which plot-wise is after the first movie, which is the fourth movie. Right? That was my one problem with this. I'm getting rid of these paper things. I'm done holding up the papers with the bolts. I'll still say Mucho mahalo because it's still a great thing to say. Give you some nice hope in your heart. But it's, yeah, that's my one technical note on this film was the drones. Otherwise, horrifying. Disgusting. Disgustingly horrifying. 12 out of 10 is 10 bolts. 12 out of 10. Disgusting. You need to watch it. You need to be as disgusted as I am, because this is the world we live in. And it's going to change. Change is inevitable. You either accept the change and live, or you reject the change and die. A purge is happening. Purge is coming our way. And when it does happen, don't say I didn't warn you. Mucho mahalo, guys.